Welcome everyone, Costin here on Serious Gaming, finishing my campaign planning for Total War Rome to Ptolemaic Egypt and Parthia. I'll start with Egypt. Egypt starts in what I assume is the strongest starting position of any faction, any of the playable factions in the game. You have control over the entirety of the Egyptus province as well as half of the Nabatea province. You have grain production, iron production, olive oil production, as well as two wonders, the necropolis of Giza as well as the pharaohs of Alexandria. You have a mixture of Hellenic units, Egyptian units, scythe chariots, war elephants, heavy cavalry, phalanxes, and I assume desert axemen as well as light infantry. You have a good, strong combined arms force, you have good cavalry, you have good infantry, you have war elephants. Like, really, what more could you ask for? And you have a strong economy, and you start in a very good starting position. In fact, the only faction which I'd say starts off in a better starting position is, well, the Seleucids themselves, who are directly to the north of you in Syria and Cilicia, as well as one settlement in Mesopotamia. Anyway, you start at war with the Cyrenaica faction in Libya. Historically, Cyrenaica was part of Ptolemaic Egypt, and they rebelled. Then in 251 BC, they were eventually brought back into the fold. They control free settlements in the Libya province, the fourth being controlled by the Nasamones faction. They have the Oracle at Amun-Re as well as fish resources. Also, as Egypt, by the way, you have a client state, Cyprus. They control Salamis as well as Side in the Cilicia province. What you should do is Egypt, take out Cyrenaica as fast as possible, like really quick, like blitzkrieg the hell out of them. The reason for this is that it's extremely likely that the Seleucids will declare war on you, or at the very least on Cyprus. Now, if they declare war on Cyprus, you might want to not help them out. Unless you've eliminated Cyrenaica fast enough, then you can go fight the Seleucids. The Seleucids, they're a real pain in the ass. Unfortunately, though, you're going to have to fight them. They don't really like Ptolemaic Egypt. In fact, Ptolemaic Egypt was behind the assassination of the founder of their empire in 281 BC, that's Selecuids, and let's just say that pissed them off greatly. So you're gonna have to deal with the Seleucids one way or another. And that's actually why I'm covering Parthia as well in the same video, because Parthia is also gonna have to deal with the Seleucids as well. Anyway, if you can take the entirety of the Libya province before the Seleucids declare war on you, then what you will want to do is take control over the entirety of the Nabatea province. Take out the Nabatea faction, which controls Hegra and Sharm-Mufas. Once you've done that, and if you're not yet at war with the Seleucids, take control over the province of oh bloody hell, these names. Ithiops, which is split between three factions, none of which are allied with one another, nor at war with any other faction. So it should be easy to take them out. If you're still not at war with the Seleucids, then it might be a good idea to start massing your armies in Jerusalem. Or you can take Arabia Magna and Arabia Felix, these two provinces, if you so desire. You know, you can mass your armies on the border of the Seleucids, or you can take these two provinces, which are split in total between 6 factions, none of which is allied with one another, and they don't start at war with any faction, though by the point you capture the entirety of the Libya province as well as Nabatea and Ithiops province, they likely will be at war, and some of them will likely be wiped out as well. Anyway, whether or not you capture Arabia, Felix, and Magna, what I do if the Seleucids don't declare war on you, what I do is get a fleet with some of your strong units, get 2 stacks, maybe even 3 stacks of troops, and put them on a fleet and move that fleet right next to Tarsus and Antioch. 1 stack will take Tarsus, 1 stack or 2 stacks stacks. No, one stack will take Antioch, and the third stack, if you so decide to send the 3 stacks, the third stack will support the army which needs it the most. So, if Antioch is more fortified than Tarsus, you help the army at Antioch. If Tarsus is more fortified, you help that army there. You might end up in the situation where the cities are not fortified. I find it unlikely that the Seleucids won't end up in a war with someone. It might be you, it might be Pontus, it might be Armenia. They're a huge empire and they have a lot of neighbors, so it's likely that they'll end up at war with someone at one point. Hell, even Bactria. Anyway, if you manage to get in that position, you can take out both Tarsus and Antioch fairly easily, and then that leaves you Tyros, Palmyra, Dura, as well as Zedessa. Obviously, you have to deal with Media and Mesopotamia, Persia, and Persia itself, and all those client states the Seleucids have. I'd personally wipe out Sardis as fast as possible, take control over the Asia province, as well as Galatia at Cappadocia. I try and avoid provoking Pontus or Armenia, however, or Media Tropatene, because, if you go at war against the Seleucids, you don't want to go at war against another major faction. It seems like a rather bad idea. To the west of your empire, I would try and not provoke Carthage. Alexander the Great had a plan to try and take control over Carthage. If you are ballsy enough, you might be able to do so, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's very far away, and the Seleucids hate you, so deal with them first. Take control over Syria, take control over Anatolia, modern-day Iraq, Iran, and even march in Afghanistan. Once you have control over this entire region, then you can deal with Carthage. You will have to deal with them eventually, but I'm fairly certain that taking control over Syria is one of the victory conditions in a long campaign. Anyway, that's Egypt. Parthia is similar in some respects, very different in others. Parthia is a cavalry nation. It relies heavily on its cavalry. It does have infantry. We saw, if some of you have watched the leaked intro movie for Total War Rome 2, we saw archers, we saw light infantry. There's also a screenshot of Parthian heavy infantry, I assume those are dismounted cataphracts. If you can get those, then you have some heavy infantry as well. You start with the settlement of Nisa. You're allied with the Dahai, who controlled the Amul settlement in Khorasmia province, which is split between the Dahai and the Khorasmi, who control the Khorasmi control Kaf, the provincial capital. To the south, there's the client state of Parthia. You don't want to go at war with them. They're a client state of the Seleucids. To the east, there's the Arya faction, which is a client state of the Seleucids as well. To the south of the Parthia, there's the Sagartia faction, again another client state. Beyond the Arya faction, to the east, there's Bactria. What I do, try and avoid provoking the Seleucids. It's a really bad idea as far as I'm concerned. Don't do it. Pure and simple, don't do it. They have they'll just destroy you very easily if you try and engage in a war against them at the very beginning. They're just too powerful to deal with. Instead, what I do, despite the fact that you have a cavalry army, so settlement battles, siege battles are going to be difficult, what I do is march on Kaf, get the help of the Dahai potentially, take Kaf, and then march on Scythia. Take control over Scythia. There's 3 factions there. They're not allied with anyone. Should be fairly easy to deal with them. Take Scythia, and then leave one general with about, say, 15 units in his army to take over Pontocaspia, Bosporus, as well as Caucasia. Slowly. It's going to take him some time, but, take over these provinces slowly, get that extra income. Meanwhile, with your main forces, once you've taken over Scythia, go to war against the Bactrians. Take the Transoxania province and then march in Bactria itself. Bactria is likely a faction which is going to rely on light infantry and cavalry as you do. Probably some war elephants as well there. I'm not sure if Parthia can recruit war elephants in Total War Rome 2. They might be able to, they might not. I have a hard time giving you a straight answer. Obviously, they haven't reveal the unit roster. Anyway, take out Bactria. Once you've taken out Bactria, and by this point I'll assume you'll at least have control over the Ponto-Caspia province, and still have a pretty strong stack there, continuing the conquest there. I mean, you have a lot of factions to the east and even to the south in Caucasia, lots of small factions, so you should be able to, with just one stack, take control over a lot of territory in that region. But anyway, with your main forces, now is the time to declare war on the Seleucid client states. Start with the Parthia province, because that's your home region. Take control over the Parthia province. Take the wonder of Mount Damavand. Take that iron production in Merv. No. Focus on the Parthia province and the Arya province. Leave some defenses and Bactria against the faction of Arcosia, client state of the Seleucids. No, actually, they're not the client state. Ooh, I was mistaken there. Well, actually, change of plans. First eliminate Arcosia, then go to war against the Seleucids to take control over Parthia, Arya, and, you know, move south against the region of Camaria. Yeah, Camaria. No, Carmania, yeah. And to the south, the Gedrosia region. Take those regions, then march on Persia. You know, you might want to strike an alliance with Media, Atropatene, or Armenia, or both of them, and, you know, to take out the Seleucid Empire. Historically, the Parthian Empire did take control over most of the territory owned by the Seleucids. They did eventually get into a bitter struggle with Rome. They lost some territory. They slowly but surely lost more and more power. Really, the only thing that stopped them from being conquered by the Romans was the huge distance between Rome and Nisa, you know, in the Parthian heartlands, as it were. The Parthian Empire died out historically when their rulers were overthrown and someone else took the throne, created a new empire. And he pretty much conquered most of Anatolia as well as the Middle East. Anyway, as Parthia, you will have, as I mentioned earlier, you will have problems in conquering settlements because you are a cavalry nation. You do have the heaviest cavalry unit in the entire game, the cataphracts. You also have horse archers. What's likely going to happen is that, like in history, you're going to have a small number of cataphracts and a large number of horse archers. I'd recommend getting some, obviously, infantry units, but don't rely on them too much. Your infantry is to help you take settlements. That's really the only role they will have. In open field battles, especially against the Seleucids, what you should focus on is using the mobility of your horse archers and their really power, because the Parthians used composite bows, which were really effective. The Mongols used composite bows, I might add, and I don't need to tell you what the Mongols achieved. Use your horse archers, hit and run attacks against the enemy. You know, especially against the Seleucids, they're going to have a lot of phalanxes, not so much in terms of cavalry or archers as you will. So, you know, focus a lot on horse archers. Your cataphracts are there to finish off enemy units that are starting to falter, or to deal with enemy cavalry charging on your ranks. They play more of a secondary role. The main force you will have is with your horse archers. In fact, historically, Marcus Crassus of Rome was actually beaten at Carrhae, I think that's the correct pronunciation, by a Pontic army of about 7,000 men, most of which were, about 6,000 were horse archers, only 1,000 were cataphracts, an entirely mounted army, and he was beaten by the Parthian horse archers, essentially. So, you know, they're a very potent tool. The Huns used horse archers, the Mongols used horse archers, and the Parthians used horse archers to great effect. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you all for watching this series of videos. I'll be doing more videos before Rome 2 comes out. I want to talk about the massive info dump that recently came out from Creative Assembly. I also want to talk about the most recent AI skirmish video, where Al Beckman played Macedon against Rome, and he lost horribly. You know, I want to talk about that because, let's just say, people have really taken the wrong conclusions from that video. In this season of my Total War show, I'll also play the prologue campaign when Rome 2 comes out. That's actually the first thing I'm gonna do. Not because I necessarily think I need it, but personally I actually want to see the story of it, you know, the Samnite Wars. Interesting part of Roman history at the very beginning. Rome wasn't always that invulnerable juggernaut, or that unstoppable juggernaut that we knew. In fact, it was in pretty dire straits at the beginning, in its early years, and it would be interesting to explore that period of Roman history. And then in the next season, the one after this, I'll actually start my Sparta campaign on the legendary difficulty. Someone asked me if I'm gonna play every single faction, potentially do a walkthrough for all of them. Maybe, but that's something that's gonna take me a long time, and I don't think I'm just gonna play Rome Total War 2 continuously. I'll probably do a walkthrough for a faction, like say Sparta, then do a co-op playthrough of the game. You know, upload a co-op walkthrough with a friend of mine, as I don't know, Macedon or Epirus or something like that. But I think I could potentially cover every faction. Just, you know, it's something that's gonna take a long time. I'm not entirely certain I'm interested in covering every single faction. Like, you know, Parthia has a lot of potential, for instance, but it's not necessarily the kind of faction I'm interested in playing on. I'm more of the person who likes combined arms forces, in the sense, yeah, I like my heavy infantry, I like my cavalry, I like my archers. You know, I like to have options. I like to have good infantry, I like to have good cavalry, I like to have good archers, or, you know, decent infantry, archers, and cavalry. As long as I have all of these, then I'm happy. That's why personally I prefer to play a faction like, say, Carthage or Rome or Sparta. You know, even Sparta will actually have decent cavalry and decent archers, because Sparta in the game doesn't represent just the city of Sparta itself. It also it represents the entirety of the Peloponnese, the Peloponnesian League, recreated. Anyway, Costin here on Serious Gaming, signing out. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for more.